All right, we are hot. What's going on, gentlemen? Marvin, bring us in.
Hey. Oh shit. I don't even know what episode this is.
Oh boy.
64,
fuck.
I think.
63, 64. I think it is
Thought it was
63.
63, yeah, I think.
64. 64 is correct.
I was right for
Welcome
once.
everyone to another episode of 64.
We're now the 64 podcast.
That's right.
Nah,
Yeah.
what else do you usually say in this? I forget.
Check out harshlanguage.tv where you could find all our links to where you could listen or watch or whatever it is you do. And we're talking about Barbie a little bit later in the show.
Yes.
I was excited to watch this movie, so I can't wait to talk about it.
Yep.
And that's basically all we do, Marvin, in the intros. Harsh language.
Welcome.
Harshlanguage.tv.
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
How was your week?
It's good. I haven't been watching much besides X-Files.
Oh, you're
pretty
still
much.
going, huh?
Nice.
Yeah, I am on episode, 17, 18, something like that. Which, that's a good amount of episodes
It is,
for how long they are.
Yeah.
That's several hours of watching shows.
And you're liking it, which makes me glad and happy.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's good.
Nice. Dusty's in a new location yet again. People are going to start thinking he's a convict on the run.
Yeah. House sitting for my brother. They're going on a Mediterranean cruise for their anniversary.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
That's what's up.
House sitting.
house sitting is fun. I mean, it's like a
It's
little
like,
mini vacay.
yeah. I've never done it, but I could imagine.
Mm.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Marvin?
I've also been, I won't say been, I just started learning Spanish today.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah.
For work or
So that's
just
been
because?
No, I've always wanted to learn a second language, and
You didn't take Spanish in
Spanish.
like high school or anything?
I mean, I think everyone did, but I couldn't remember
I dropped
I
that
did.
shit.
anything.
I dropped that shit.
I didn't
Really?
take any foreign languages.
Yeah.
Isn't Italian very similar to Spanish though?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, in my high school we had Spanish or Italian. And me being an Italian,
Wait, do you speak Italian? Do you actually speak Italian?
I
Or
could-
you just like
I
some
can
stuff?
understand it. I can't really
Okay.
speak it. And it depends on like how fast. Okay, here's the thing. This is going to be verbose, but I have no choice. Italian all my friends are Greek. I think you guys know this about me.
Right. Yep.
Most of them. So, oddly enough, the Greek community here in America, at least in New York, is like a generation behind Italians, it seems. So my friends, their parents were born in Greece and came to the U.S.
Right.
So my friends are the first generation that were born in the United States.
Mm.
My family and most other Italian families that I know of, so my parents were born in the United States. My
Right, yeah.
grandparents were born in the United States, and it was their parents that were born in Italy.
That's right.
So it's like one generation ahead. Anyway, that is all to say, growing up in my house, my grandparents spoke Italian, but not often. They did it when basically I
Yeah.
was younger and they didn't want me to hear what they were talking about. You know how sometimes old people spell words in front of kids?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
They would just talk
They would
Italian.
yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But and then also when I got in trouble, like my grandparents would fucking yell at me in Italian. But otherwise, yeah, they didn't really speak a lot of Italian. But when I was in high school, I should have just taken Italian because it would have been easy. But I decided to take Spanish
yeah.
like an idiot, and I fucking hated it, and then I dropped it.
We had French.
So you're saying you're
and
watered down.
Spanish.
That's what you're saying.
I am watered down, yeah. But yeah, and then when I grew up, me and Nick, we worked at a pizzeria together. And they were like off the boat Italians, and then all the kitchen workers were like
You can't say that.
Spanish. Well, why you can't? I mean, off the boat means they.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, I didn't know. My bad. Sorry. Don't cancel me.
Got him.
Yeah. So they spoke Italian at work, yelled at us in Italian, and then the kitchen workers used to speak Spanish. So being around that, I sort of picked up a lot of like the similarities. So like, yeah, I can't carry a conversation, but I could like understand certain
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
But that's cool. That's cool. You're learning Spanish.
Yeah, it's going good. I watched 2 lessons.
What are you using? One of those apps?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good that the way he explains it. No, I tried the apps, and this guy, shouts out to him. I forgot the name of the it's all free too, and it's on
nice.
YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Language Transfer is the channel. Shout out to him.
Mm.
But the way he teaches it is so good. Like, I tried the apps, but the apps are all basically just memorization. Like, you're just memorizing phrases, random words, this and that. But the way this guy explains it, he starts off like comparing a lot of what I think he calls them transferable words or something. So like words that are very similar in Spanish, or you can make simple changes to kind of make it work in Spanish. But it's pretty good. I like the way, like, it's a lot of words I've already, or not even words, just like you're learning more of the rules of the language instead of just memorizing words. So
the gender rules.
so I could apply, like, something I learned for this word, and I can make this other word work. So
Yeah, I find association a little bit easier myself.
Yeah.
That's how kids learn, like, fucking whatever language they learn. Just association and repetition.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of crazy similar. It's like 3,000 words that are like transferable between Spanish and English.
I haven't watched anything either this week. I don't know why I just jumped right back into that, but no, that's cool that you're learning. Maybe I'll check that out and learn some Italian finally.
They got Greek up there.
Carry on my legacy. I understand some Greek too, actually, just from hanging out with my friends, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I'm a linguist. I don't know if you guys knew that about me, but now you do.
Just the bad words, I would imagine.
There used to be this guy on YouTube. Well, there's a lot of them that, they learn like a crazy amount of languages, and then they're really fluent at all of them.
Yeah.
And there's this one guy I used to watch on YouTube that was just, he would go to these markets and just talk to all different types of people in these like world markets, whatever the fuck.
That's pretty cool.
And they would always be so surprised with how many languages they know. It's crazy.
Have you seen the movie?
Some people will just pick it up.
I'm gonna bring this back to movie stuff. Have you seen Boondock Saints, Marvin?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's a movie I've been considering adding to the Make Marvin watch list one of these months.
Yep, I remember. Yeah.
And in that movie, the 2 characters, they speak like a multitude of languages, but there's like some scenes that like deal specifically with it, because like they'll just like, there's a scene with like these Russian mobsters where the Russians talk in Russian, and then they respond to them, and the Russians are like, "Oh fuck." Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So back to TV stuff. I haven't watched anything except Barbie this week. I've been doing a lot of gaming. Still Tarkoving. You still Texas Chainsaw Massacring, Marvin? Still massacring fools? Cool.
Yep.
I'll probably try to get that this week. Give Tarkov a little bit of a break. But I've been having fun with it. But what I did want to say, I caught up on Ahsoka, and I think the last time we met, I was kind of like, not shitting on it, but I was like, yeah, it's not as good as I had hoped it would be. But much like the internet, because this shit is blowing up on TikTok and Twitter and shit, and YouTube even, this last episode really fucking roped me in, boy. You're caught up, I assume, Dusty?
Of what?
Ahsoka? Hey, welcome to the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at what I've been watching.
You're caught up on Ahsoka?
Yes, absolutely. I watch it like as soon as it comes out.
And you're not, Marvin, right?
Nah, I'm not up at all. I haven't watched anything besides the first 2.
Gonna have to hit you with a little spoiler, because
that's fine.
I just gotta say, let the man cook. Let Dave Filoni cook, because he's cooking. And in this last episode 5, so Ahsoka, well, it was established, I think, in Clone Wars, or maybe the show, what was it after that? The World Between Worlds, Dusty? That was established in Clone Wars, yeah. So the World Between Worlds, Marvin, is basically like this like timeless dimension in the Force, basically, that lets you like access all time and space. It's basically like the Tesseract in fucking Interstellar, for all intents and purposes. And Ahsoka, she reconnects with Anakin in this World Between Worlds. And as you know, Marvin, Anakin was her master. She was his Padawan.
Yep.
And by the end of the Clone Wars, she actually throws down her lightsabers and she leaves the Jedi Order because she was like falsely accused of like being a terrorist, basically.
Well, she takes her lightsabers with her, but she.
Yeah, and the Jedi. I was using that as a figure of speech, like she laid down her weapons. But so she was falsely accused of being a terrorist during the Clone Wars, and the Jedi Council.
Out of the Order.
Yeah, the Jedi Council basically didn't do anything to protect her or defend her, despite basically knowing that she wasn't guilty. And then later on, Mace Windu actually walked it back and was like, no, that was all just a part of your path to becoming a Jedi Master, which is like bullshit.
She was framed and kicked out of the Order.
Yeah.
And then when they discovered that it wasn't actually her, they asked her back and she said no and walked away.
Yeah. So that has always been like a point of contention between her and Anakin. Anakin was very hurt and offended that she left him, basically. And then sometime...
Part of the reason he became disillusioned with the Jedi and the Jedi Council is the way they treated her. And...
One of many reasons, yeah.
Yes.
And I believe, I don't know if my time is exact, but I think Revenge of the Sith is like weeks after the end of the Clone Wars, if I'm not mistaken. So Anakin quickly turns to the dark side, as we all know, becomes Darth Vader. And her knowing this, she goes on the rest of her life up until we see her in this show, thinking that she's like part of the reason why he became Vader. Like that because they were very close. He was almost like a daughter to her, or maybe a sister. And she was very close to Padme as well. And she feels that like she could have saved him or helped him or whatever the fuck. So she holds a tremendous amount of guilt over this. But in this episode 5 of Ahsoka, she meets with him and she's reliving like moments of the past between her and him. And it's him as Anakin trying to teach her a lesson. And by the end of this whole like thing that they do, this vision quest, they get into like a little fight and she lays down her lightsabers. Because she has him beat and she could basically kill him, envision him. And she doesn't, and it turns out his ultimate lesson was like, don't become like me, because there was a moment in one of the prior episodes where she like was force choking somebody out of like rage, and then she stopped, and she was really worried that because she was trained by Anakin, that she has a little bit of him in him, yeah. But man, it's the redemption arc that Anakin deserved and needed, because if you just watch,
he don't need shit, but a fucking
no, he does
swift death.
No. So he gets a redemption, obviously, in Return of the Jedi, right? He saves Luke, and ultimately
allegedly
brings the Empire to ruin. And it was, but if you watch the prequels, I've always argued that the prequels don't do a good job of really like fleshing out Anakin as a character. It's like, oh, you're the chosen one, and everybody knows he's going to become Darth Vader at that point. So you're just like watching him in this descent into darkness, but they never really flesh him out. And like, if you just watch the prequels, I think they frame him out as like a petulant little child in a lot of cases. He's just like, oh, Obi-Wan wants me to do things and I don't want to do. But when you strip away that stuff, he's actually a very empathetic character who really cares about life itself. And that is the reason why he was enticed by Palpatine to begin with. Because he grew up poor with his mother. Then he goes to join the Jedi. And then in the second movie, his mom fucking dies. Okay? So he couldn't save his mother. And after which, he fucking slaughters an entire camp of Tusken Raiders, and there's that like funny meme dialogue where he's like, I killed them, not just the men, the women and children too. And but
slaughtered them like animals.
Yeah, in Attack of the Clones, he's like really like he's really struggling with that he did that, because and the thoughts that he's having. He talks to Padme about it, like I'm having thoughts I shouldn't have, and we have this secret relationship that we shouldn't have, and I slaughtered all these fucking people. Like, this is not the way of the Jedi. And by Revenge of the Sith, like, he's still really struggling with that, but it's ultimately Palpatine being like, hey, you're like really worried about your wife dying. I can help you not be worried about that. And and so it's his empathy and his like his appreciation of life that ultimately turns him over to the dark side. And you don't really ever see that in those movies. You have to do like some real mental gymnastics to sort of like figure that out for yourself. Yeah. But this singular episode of Ahsoka like finally made that known. And it's like Anakin was a tormented person, and he is the failure of the Jedi Council. He's the failure of Yoda. He's the failure of all of those people because he just needed a dad, really, is what he needed at the end of the day. Qui-Gon dying is why he became Darth Vader. So I don't know. This episode just really like made him human again instead of just like the guy that becomes Darth Vader. Like it's
right.
Oh man, I felt so good for him, and I felt so good for Hayden Christensen too, because he's been like he's been harassed his whole career for like his bad performance, which wasn't great. But like as we've said a number of times, it's not all on them. A lot of that stuff is direction and writing. But yeah, I don't know. It was great, and Anakin got the redemption arc that he deserved, in my opinion. You agree, Dusty?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it. I guess you could call it a redemption arc. I don't know that it's done yet because he's still, he's slaughtering children and stuff. So
yeah, he's fucked
redeeming
for life.
But
well, he does a lot of bad stuff, but
it was definitely a nod to people that watched the Clone Wars because they took you back there, which I thought they overdid a little bit, but it's still good. I mean, I didn't think it was all that necessary, but I liked the
kind of made me want like a live action Clone Wars, to be honest.
Yeah.
The animated one's good.
No, it's great for sure, but it's that would be dope.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying Ahsoka. This is like Filoni's vision coming to live action.
I don't think it's the best show in the world. Some of it's a little bit like campy and cheesy and stuff, but like that scene alone really made me enjoy it a lot better because it's like him being like, "Yo, you're not like me. You don't have to be worried about me, about being me. Just because I trained you doesn't mean that you're gonna become like I did." And again, I still don't understand where this falls in the timeline between like where this is like obviously very early after the Empire falls, probably years, but I don't like in Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, like Luke is building a new Jedi temple and she's like communicating with him in Mandalorian. So I don't know where this show fits in with that show. It's probably right around the same time, but
only someone could clear that up.
Well, yeah, I think
all the stuff.
Ryan was trying to tackle that because Kanan Jarrus's kid, the green-haired kid, is force sensitive. He's like, well, he probably was one of the first students at Luke's new temple, so that's probably around the timeline.
I don't know why they don't just tell you where it is, because like what she gives Mando the Darksaber in Mandalorian. So is this before or after she gave him the Darksaber? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it's an okay show. I just that one thing really made me like it a whole lot more, because it like a lot of what Filoni's doing seems to be addressing some of the mistakes of the prequels, and I made the joke to you guys in Discord, like we'll see what he does with how he's gonna fix the mistakes of the sequels, because that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be a tall order, but let him cook.
Yep, he's doing a good job.
So what have you been watching, Dusty? Other than Ahsoka? I can't fucking speak tonight.
Morning show started back up. There's only a couple episodes out. I've watched that. Foundation, second season just ended. That show is getting pretty good. Isaac Asimov's book turned to a show. It's hard to follow at first, just because it's the scope of it. It's kind of like Dune or any other like universe. You're going to be a little bit confused and perplexed, but once you get into it, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Billions is back on. I'm just watching that to watch it because I'm this far into it. But there's a new show called The Winter King. It's a TV show with Ian DeCasticker. He was Fitz in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He plays King Arthur, and it's another take on the King Arthur legend. It's been pretty good so far. Interesting. He like gets what do you call it? kicked out of his country, and then it turns to turmoil, and he comes back. So it's kind of a
Nice.
different take on King Arthur. So it's pretty good so far. I'm enjoying it.
MGM Plus made
Yeah.
that one.
Oh,
And then,
another plus,
Yeah.
Marvin.
I think that's Amazon though. Didn't Amazon buy all the MGM stuff? So
Probably, I don't know.
Probably. I have no clue. Yeah.
but then there's a new season of Top Boy out. I kind of want to pick that back up, but
Oh, Top Boy. Yeah, that's good.
What the
yeah,
fuck is
that's-
Top Boy?
It was a BBC
British crime.
show. Yeah, a couple of kids in the drug dealing world, and then they only did like 2 seasons or something like that, and then they stopped it. And then Netflix
Yeah.
picked it up like 5 or 10 years later, so it picks up as them as grown adults taking over the game. And there's like been another 2 or 3 seasons of it. So
Yeah, I haven't watched
Looking
any
forward
of
to
the reboot. I
Yeah,
did
the
watch the
reboot was
first
good.
2 seasons, and they were
Yeah.
great though.
the reboot was pretty good.
Cool.
I enjoyed. So yeah, we're on
Might have to
season
check it
6 now.
Give me some more crime show watching going.
For
There's
season
some-
5.
There's some real good looking shows coming out soon that I'm excited for. Just off the top of my head, True Detective season 4. That's January. That's only a couple months away. Pretty hyped for that.
Yep.
In just a couple weeks, on October 13th, we got fucking Goosebumps dropping on Disney Plus and Hulu,
Oh yeah.
and I'm excited for that shit. Did you guys,
Yep.
Dusty? You're like fucking way older than me. Well, not way older than me, but you're several years older than me. Did you read Goosebumps when you were, or that's like a little bit like after
I
your
read
time?
Goosebumps, and
A
I'm
little
young.
bit past, yeah.
Marvin, you
They had
didn't go to
Goosebumps in
school when they
libraries.
had fucking Dusty. What was
Dr.
the news?
Seuss and the Berenstain Bears or whatever the fuck they're.
No, I read those
Berenstain
too.
Bears.
Marvin, did you get those little newsletters that used to come to your school in elementary school like once a month, and you would order books and shit like Scholastics or whatever the fuck?
No, we had book fairs where
Yeah.
they pull up, but no, never like that type of thing.
I loved Goosebumps as a kid. I used to like collecting them like for the covers, like that was the cool thing back then.
Oh yeah, the covers were sick.
And I had all of them. And I've read most of them. I don't know if I ever read all of them, but I read a lot of them when I was younger. And they were great.
I read a lot of them too. I like the Choose Your Own whatever series
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
did.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
shit was crazy.
I remember those. And
It's like
then
when you mess up, you got to start over. It's like fuck, or you got to go back.
it's like playing a Nintendo game. And then for the little bit of the little older crowd, like the preteens, they had Ghosts of Fear Street, which was a little bit older themed, very good. I also read those. And then there was the Fear Street series, which was for like the mid to later teens stories, and those were also good. And I don't know if you guys watched them, but the Fear Street trilogy that Netflix put out like a year or two ago was very good. I really liked it. So I'm
Fear
pretty.
Street. No, I don't remember reading that or
Really?
seeing that. Yeah, Fear Street was maybe I don't know some stuff. I don't know. I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, it's 3 parts, and it was basically on Netflix, and it's just you never watched them either, Dusty?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, you guys got to watch them. They're really good. The chick from Sadie Sink from The Whale and Stranger Things is in it. The redhead.
Yeah. Yep. I see.
It takes place generationally, so it's 3 stories that tie together that take place. One in the 70s, one in present day, I think, and then one in like the 1700s or some shit.
Mm.
I thought it was really good. But yeah, so I'm a big fan of R.L. Stine stuff, and this Goosebumps series looks pretty good. Justin Long is in it. And yeah, so that's one of them. And then we got fucking Fall of the House of Usher coming out on October 12th. So these back-to-back.
Usher, like Usher Raymond.
Yeah, like the rapper. Is that his last name, Raymond?
What?
No, the show is called The Fall of the House of Usher. It's based off of the works of Edgar
Usher,
Allan Poe.
like a church usher or something, or is it just a random usher?
I don't know.
Usher, Raymond.
But yeah,
the
Raymond
Fourth?
is his last name.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But yeah, so there's a short story by Edgar Allan Poe called The Fall of the House of Usher, and it basically is a narrator arriving at the house of his friend Roderick Usher. So it's the House of Usher. That's the family name.
Oh, okay, I see.
So Yeah, it's a cool.
Edgar Allan Poe's crazy. It's probably gonna be crazy. I mean,
oh yeah. Well, this is
I haven't
loosely.
read much of his stuff, but
It's loosely based off of that short story. But it's my boy Mike Flanagan back at it again, and that guy.
Oh well, yeah, it's gonna be good then.
Yeah, that guy just only puts that. Isn't that great when you just know it's gonna be good? Just like, oh,
It's
man.
like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. I don't know about all that.
Consistency, baby. Yep.
Is Chick-fil-A
Where else
consistent?
can you go any day of the week? Doesn't matter what time, and it's gonna be good. Not many places.
Taco Bell, kinda.
Nah,
You don't think so?
absolutely not. Nope.
Well, I
Not
love
around
me some
these
Taco
parts.
Bell.
Yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, so a couple shows coming down the pike that I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Maybe we have
So that last one is a show or a movie?
It's a show. That one's Netflix, so we're gonna get all those episodes at once.
Oh wow.
And then
Oh,
the
miniseries.
The Goosebumps one is probably gonna be weekly episodes because that's what Disney Plus likes to do.
Right.
I mean, if Disney Plus is if their other shows are any indication, Goosebumps might not be good, but I'm still excited for it. Nevertheless, we'll see. I'll probably be disappointed, I would imagine. Yeah. So, what do you got for us this week, Dusty? What's going on in the world of the news?
All right. Let's see here. The strike. Well,
Still going.
Yeah. Negotiations resume Wednesday, I believe, for the Writers Guild strike. So they're going to get together and talk about things. Will they get anywhere? Who knows? We're on like
Probably
day
not.
140,
Maybe
I
they
think.
will. Probably not. Didn't that
No.
someone else start striking the
The auto workers are about to strike, and then the
Oh, yeah, the auto
workers.
workers. Yeah. Now, Fran Dresser is the president of SAG-AFTRA. Made a social media post about
she?
striking video games.
Mm.
So they have a contract, the Interactive Media Agreement. It was extended beyond the original expiration date as negotiations happened with the companies for critical terms SAG members needed. SAG's position was that the companies failed to address SAG's needs, and for this reason, the negotiating committee and the national board unanimously agreed that the union should have a member-approved strike authorization in hand when bargaining resumes on September 26th. And this doesn't mean they're gonna strike. It just means they're giving themselves the ability to strike, which is an authorization. So, but yeah, this is, I mean, these video game companies, we're talking about WB, Disney, Activision, EA, Epic Games, Take-Two, and all the other big ones. So,
Right.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna not have any video games for a while too, because they use, for ones that try to use, big name actors for voiceovers and stuff.
right? Oh yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Damn. So I guess I'm just gonna be playing chess. I'm good with that. I got
Yeah.
chess. Chess.
And
Don't need no updates. Don't need nothing.
we're gonna lose everything.
I wonder how many, I doubt Riot Games has to deal with SAG because they can just hire whoever they want, right? Whatever they
Right.
want. But yeah.
Yeah,
who
that's
knows?
crazy.
We'll see.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, move over to WB. The Harry Potter series, which is coming out, many speculated this was going to be a 1-to-1 translation. Each season would be a book. Apparently, they have said this is going to be a 10-year project, and Fantastic Beasts is not a part of it, so they're going to stretch 7 books across more than 7 seasons. Or maybe they'll just stretch out 7 seasons. I don't know, but it'll probably be 10 seasons. J.K. Rowling is on board as an EP and is excited about extracting more nuance and depth from her characters and stories that you can only accomplish with long-form television. Hard to do in movies, like Dan was talking about earlier with diving into Anakin. You really can't see some of that stuff in a movie because they have to cut that shit out. Unless you like go and watch 3-4 hour movies, which
Yeah.
Snyder fans do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, yeah, no real more news on that. I just thought it was interesting that they're projecting it to be a 10-year project, so they want to milk that IP.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Max is going to start offering live sports for free this year. Including coverage of the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB. So if you're a Max subscriber, this year you will get all those games for free. The lack of fee will change next year, though. So if you like it and you want to keep it, you have to start paying. I think they're saying around February or March, which makes sense because March Madness is in March. Obviously, it's college
Yeah.
basketball tournament. So they're going to turn it off then and make everybody start paying for it. So they'll have. But I thought it was interesting that these streaming services starting to offer live television and live sports options.
Well, I mean, they're trying to market their platform, right? That's why they're going to give it for free a little bit and then take it away.
Yeah.
Right. Which
doesn't. So wait. Discovery and Max are the same now, right?
Warner Brothers Discovery, yes, and their
Warner
streaming
Brothers-
service is called Max, not HBO Max.
Right?
Yeah.
Not HBO Max. Well, I was gonna say because Warner Bros owns like TNT, TBS.
Yeah, that's where most of the hockey games are.
Oh, yeah,
But they
hockey.
have the rights to cast it, so you know those are their networks. So they'll air them there and probably also on Max. So
Wow,
I guess the soccer games.
that's some good stuff.
Some of them will be on television, some will be streaming. I don't know how they're going to work it out, but just thought it was interesting that they're going to start offering live sports for free this year, and then
crazy.
start charging next year.
Yeah. I wonder how much it'll be. $50 more.
Who
Something
knows?
like it. Something like that for sure.
Speaking of, Chief Financial Officer Gunnar Wiedenfels was at a media conference, and he was talking about streaming services, and he was talking to the audience, and he said, for a decade in streaming, an enormously valuable amount of quality content has been given away well below fair market value. That's in the process of being corrected. And basically what he's saying is, when we rolled out this shit worldwide, we weren't thinking about the economic impact of it. We were just thinking about getting as many subscribers as possible.
Yeah.
So we launched it at a low price, and we have a lot of churn, which is people canceling. I think Marvin, you posted that tweet that showed who all was canceling from which services in our message thread.
That's right.
And WB is one of the worst. I think they had a 26% churn rate, which is insane.
Yep.
But they're gonna, I mean, their ad free, I think, is $15.99. It was just $14.99, so they just raised it, and they'll probably raise it again. They're probably all gonna be like $20 a pop once we're all said and done. This is Max, WB.
Oh, this is Max. Okay.
Yeah, this is still Max.
I did find the tweet. Yeah, 26.9% Max. Below them, Disney is 21%.
Pretty close.
So that's a lot of loss for them for sure.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, this guy is saying that we're just giving all this content away because we're not charging enough, and we're going to change that. So they're going to up the fucking prices.
They're fucked. Yeah, it's going to be 30% next time. Give fuck.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I mean, it's the premium stuff. They want to raise the price and get everybody on the lower tiered ad version. That way they can make money on ad revenue. They just, because they're still making, even if they're only charging you $9 or $10 for the ad version, they're making millions on the back end selling ads to ad agencies.
Yeah. You know who has the lowest cancellation rate?
Apple? Was it Apple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't we talk about that last week?
Yeah, but that, I mean,
because they're the cheapest.
They're the cheapest.
$6.99.
They don't pump out content like Netflix does, or any of the other ones, and they don't jack around with their prices a lot. And also, Apple users are very loyal.
The Apple name,
Apple users are super loyal, so they're just going to stay subscribed. Yeah,
tribal effect on their subscriptions.
Yeah, so. That's really all for WB. On to Disney. The Disney Plus premium subscription, no ads, is getting its price raised too. We just heard about that. They're going from $10.99 to $13.99 on October 12th. Zaslav talked about this at the last meeting they had, which if you're a stockholder or something, you would have already known. But most users don't know. They just got a message, and so it's starting to blow up in the news.
Right.
And then Hulu's ad-free plan is jumping from $14.99 to $17.99.
Wow.
Both still have ad
30,
versions,
40%.
but their ad versions are only $7.99. So yeah, we're going to charge you $25 for no ads because we're not making any more money off that. But I don't know. I think it's kind of weird. So yeah, but right now you can get Disney Plus for $1.99. I think it ends in like 2 days.
Oh yeah,
ends on the 20th.
Right. They gotta
because of the whole
the
Charter Spectrum deal kind of forced Disney's hand to offer that to their customers because 15 million households were without ABC and ESPN. And actually, last week we reported on it a little bit, but I didn't report on it because I was watching the football game. But they figured out the deal last week right before Monday Night Football, so all those 15 million households could watch Monday Night Football. So NFL still
a lot of credits back on some accounts right there.
Yeah.
Phone lines had to be fucking jumping off the damn wall.
So they give it to you for $1.99 and then they crank it up by like 300%.
You can get it for $1.99 for 3 months max, and then after that they're going to jack it up to their price. So if you want to try out Disney Plus, now's the perfect time. You got a couple days left to do it. You'll probably have 1 day left by the time you hear this, if it comes out tomorrow. If
you want to try out Disney Plus and see how bad fucking Secret Invasion was, check it out.
So they sorted that deal out. It was a transformative deal. They restored most of the channels, I think. Like they took some channels away as well. So where is it? They're still going to carry ABC-owned television stations, Disney Channel, FX, and the Nat Geo channel, in addition to the full suite of ESPN networks. The channels coming down from Spectrum are Baby TV, Disney Junior, Disney XD, Freeform, FXFM, FXX, Nat Geo Wild, and Nat Geo Mundo. So, all the additional channels that these companies try and jam down your package throat. They're like, nobody watches this
Disney
shit.
XD.
Get it out. So that's good. And I guess a lot of other companies are starting to reach out to Disney and other places about this deal, because this deal is pretty interesting. Disney Plus Basic ad supported is going to be given to every Spectrum TV Select package. So if you sign up for Charter Spectrum, you're getting ad Disney Plus as part of the deal. ESPN Plus will be provided as well.
This is hilarious.
And then
so now the streaming people are going with the cable people, and the bundles are all going to be together.
They're all going to.
And then we're going to have bundles with multiple streaming shows.
We said this last week.
I want to see how that's going to look.
I mean, the cable, the main, regular cable, like they're dying. They're like a species that's like on the brink of extinction. So they gotta fucking
pay out even more.
They gotta try whatever they can.
You
to
say
stay
that,
alive.
but linear television is still pretty fucking popular amongst.
Of course it is, but
most of the world
that don't. Yeah.
They see where the industry.
They know what I knew.
I mean, until broadband internet is all over the world and people don't have to fucking point a satellite at the sky to get television.
True.
There's still going to be a need for places like Charter and shit like that.
I can't wait to see some of those deals with like one streaming service offering another streaming services a couple of their shows, a couple of their movies. I wonder how that's
going to apparently what was it, Yellowstone did really well when it aired. They sent it to CBS, I think.
Oh yeah, I bet. Oh yeah, CBS. For sure, I can imagine.
So yeah. Let's see. So there's that. Okay, here's an interesting one. Almost a year after its release, I think it was October 20th last year, Marvel Studios' special presentation Werewolf by Night is coming to Disney Plus in color.
I'll rewatch
it. They colorized it. Now, I find this peculiar because I thought one of the reasons they did black and white was to hide the gore and the blood. So they're colorizing it, but they're going to offer it. It's only coming on Disney Plus, so maybe they'll, age restrict it. But if they're not, I don't know how they're going to do that. But they're also
setting up for Blade
and Punisher,
easing it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was the
that's
reason?
Coming to Disney Plus on October 20th. It came out October 6th last year.
What was the reason for hiding the blood again? I don't even remember. Was it because they couldn't get played in like China or something?
Yes. Yeah. The Asian markets. Yeah.
I think that's what
like even with like games like you play PUBG, it's green.
Right.
So. Oh yeah.
But yeah, the original black and white version is coming to Hulu on September 15th. So people will get to see that if you haven't seen it already and you have Hulu, if you don't have Disney Plus. So yeah, I don't know. I actually like the black and white version. I don't know. I guess I'll rewatch it to see if it's any better in color, but I thought the art direction was great.
I'd like to see the creature at the
it'd be cool.
Not the werewolf, but the creature at the end.
Oh yeah,
that was like
well, you do
swamp thing or whatever the fuck.
You
was
do.
it in color?
Yeah, the end switches to color.
Oh,
at the
okay,
very,
never
very
mind
end. Yeah.
God damn it, Marvin, get with it. That's cool.
And then circling back around to Star Wars, Taika Waititi's Star Wars film seems to be dead. The first hint was at the Toronto International Film Festival, where Taika and others were honoring director Sean Levy for an achievement award, which Taika said, "Unlike me, let's hope he manages to finish the script for that," in reference to Sean Levy's announced Star Wars spinoff.
Right.
And then insider Daniel Rickman from Via World of Real, said that the movie is officially dead. There's no other news on why it's dead or whatever, but it sounds like he's not gonna. I don't know. I guess they were really high on him for a little while, and they made a couple Thor movies, and now he's like not getting to do his projects anymore. So
yeah,
feel bad for the guy, but his movies were just okay. So I don't care either way. And then an interesting announcement: Lego Marvel Avengers Code Red is an all-new special, which is going to be streaming October 27th on Disney Plus. So we're getting another Lego Avengers movie.
Okay.
Code Red. Who knows what it's about? They just
Get
posted
outta
this
here.
on social media today. Don't know anything about it. I think Code Red was in the comics, like Red Hulk tried to put a team together, or they put a team together to fight Red Hulk. I forget, but it was in the comics. So it could be something along that lines, or it could be something completely different, but who knows? But yeah, it's coming out this month, so that was kind of.
If there's one thing I never
to
want to see, it's a Lego movie.
I'm telling you, Marvin, Lego Batman's a fucking banger.
I don't want no parts of that shit.
You gotta check it out.
Lego games, Lego fucking no.
Yeah,
I'll play with Legos, but I don't want to see no Lego fucking movie or game ever.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And then Stephen Glover, he says Lando is no longer a series coming to Disney Plus, but a feature film coming to theaters. Lucasfilm confirmed this via Variety.
Is that the Donald Glover one?
Donald Glover played Lando. Him and his brother Steven wrote the first. They were part of the first movie, and so they're going to be. They were writing the series, and I guess they decided to turn it into a full feature film. So they're going to cash in on that because you can make some money, make a feature film.
That's true.
Everybody's backing out of making series for their own streaming platforms and sending shit to theaters.
Right.
But yeah, so Lando Calrissian, Donald Glover's
sick. Can't wait.
Another movie, yeah. And then the big news: Marvel Studios visual effects workers have unanimously voted to unionize with the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, or the IATSE.
Let's go. Get fucked, Disney.
Yeah. They're saying it was universal. This is the first time the IATSE is unionized with a team of all VFX workers. So it's kind of historical. Now they have to negotiate a contract with Marvel Studios. So yeah, we'll see. And then apparently VFX workers are Walt Disney Pictures filed with the National Labor Relations Board for an election to unionize as well. So Disney's getting unioned up.
Oof.
Their employees are, at least, and I'm sure they're not too happy about it. But
good for the employees.
Yeah, maybe She-Hulk season 2 she'll look better.
Yeah. Well, they'll have an in-house now. I don't know if they had in-house when they made She-Hulk. They were still outsourcing third parties. So.
Right.
We'll see. I don't know if that's going to mean delays because now they're unionized, and that's just another thing to strike to throw a roadblock in entertainment. But
yeah.
We'll see where it goes. Anyhow, Jonathan Majors, he finally got his day in court. He was at court Friday, I think, virtually. They've had 3 or 4 delays because the prosecutor kept saying they weren't ready. They were still going through all the discovery evidence. Yeah. But apparently on Friday, they said they were ready. So the judge set a date for October 25th. This is for his assault charges where his ex-girlfriend, he called the cops because he was worried about her mental health. They showed up and she had marks, and so he got arrested and charged.
Did you guys see that
Disney standing by him?
Ass video of him like stopping 2 kids from fighting?
Oh yeah.
He was just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, what a hero. Imagine.
No big deal.
Didn't hire a PR firm.
I knew it was him as soon as I see him with that fucking crazy ass hat he be fucking crazy ass shit he be wearing.
Yeah, he loves that shit. He's got a weird fashion. I'll tell you what.
He was appeared to be jovial with his new girlfriend in court. Well, I guess, but who knows?
His girl is Megan Good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was she in? She was in something we watched recently, I thought.
Nah, I don't think so.
Really? Okay.
But Disney's sticking by him.
Yeah.
They haven't dropped him yet. I mean, he's coming. He's going to be in Loki, and he's got his own films and stuff. I don't think. I mean, this is the problem with celebrities today. You have the Ezra Miller thing. Is it Ezra Miller?
Yep.
And now Jonathan Majors.
I mean, Loki was shot long before this even happened. So I mean, there's nothing they could do about that at this point.
Right, but yeah, he was in the first Loki. He's in the second Loki. He's already been in some movies. If they drop him now, it's going to be weird.
Yeah.
I mean, good for them, I guess, to let the case play out to see what actually happens. I'm sure if he's convicted, he'll be dropped. But
because his publicist company dropped him, and a bunch of other he lost some advertising money and stuff when all this came out. So Disney sticking
it was looking bad, but then they hired the fucking team, special fucking stage team. So everything's good now. He just stopped those poor girls from fighting.
Yeah. He's just a good guy.
Oh, Megan Good was in Day Shift.
There we go. That was it. Okay.
That's right. No, we didn't. Okay.
His wife.
Yep.
And that's really it for Disney. And there's not a whole lot of, and I tell you what, the news is getting hard to procure. I saw 15 articles in the last day or two about, this actor gave $250,000 to the strike fund. This actor gave $500,000. These are articles. I don't give a fuck. Okay,
right.
Give them the money, but.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to leak anymore.
Nothing. Yeah. But this is an interesting one Dan might like. The production company, the H Collective, is forming a new company called H3 Entertainment, which will combine the metaverse, Web3, and AI into a model designed to produce a new slate of film projects. Now, one of those projects on their slate is a Brightburn sequel.
Wow.
Now,
I'm sure it'll be made with a lot of love and passion.
Brian and Mark Gunn wrote the script for the original Brightburn, and James produced it with Dave Yarovesky directing. James teased in 2019 that there might be a sequel. He said, I think I'm tied up for the next few years with Suicide Squad and then Guardians, but we are talking about the sequel. No other information on the sequel. I thought it was an interesting movie. Some people didn't like it, thought it was slow, didn't think it was scary. Thought it was a bad take, but I thought it was an interesting watch. I liked it. So,
right.
Be looking forward to that one. I don't know if the Guns are involved in this one, but it sounds like it because he teased in 2019. Of course, that could be different now that he's head of, WB, DC, I guess. So, I don't know.
Guns are involved, just not the ones you want. The Skynet variety.
Yeah. And then that's let's see, Nuns topping the charts this week. A Haunting in Venice, Equalizer 3, nothing. Barbie's still kicking. It's at 1.4 billion. With Mario Brothers and Barbie are both at 1.4 billion, so they're kind of tied for the top movie right now. I'm sure the numbers bear out Barbie's doing a little bit better, but yeah.
I cannot wait to watch A Haunting in Venice. Really? It's my boy Kenneth Branagh, baby. His character, he's doing the Hercule Poirot books. The first one was Murder on the Orient Express. Second one was Murder on the Nile, or Death on the Nile, and then this one.
Right.
And I like those first two. Okay. The Agatha Christie character.
Yeah.
Detective Hercule Poirot, world's greatest detective.
And that's the news.
Marvin, you want to watch some detecting shit? Watch Murder on the Orient Express. Not the original one. I mean, the original one's great too, but I know how you feel about old movies.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Okay.
So that's it for the news?
That's it.
Wow.
Getting slimmer and slimmer every week.
Slimmer and slimmer every week. Well, thank you for delivering what little news there was. Appreciate it. All right, well, let's get into today's review, folks. Talking about Barbie, the movie that is the part of the largest and greatest, what might be the largest and greatest marketing campaign in human history. Good old Barbenheimer.
Yep.
And how much money did this movie make by this point? Like a fucking $250 or some shit? Septillion? What did it make?
Barbie's at 1.4 billion. Oppenheimer's at 900 million. So,
okay, yeah, that's some. Barbie's made some fucking Elon money, that's for sure.
Yes.
Some Jeff Bezos money. But yeah, so there's a lot of hype around this movie, and was the hype worth it? We're gonna find out. So this is directed by Greta Gerwig. Greta Gerwig has 2 director credits previous to this, and I believe she directed. I think the features were Little Women and Lady Bird. Lady Bird's a pretty great movie. And she has another movie I've never seen or heard of called Nights and Weekends, but Little Women and Lady Bird are the 2 that I know her for. And of course, she's also an actress, and she's been in a ton of things. And in this, we got our stars. Margot Robbie as Barbie, Ryan Gosling as Ken, and then the supporting cast, we got Issa Rae as another Barbie, Kate McKinnon as Weird Barbie.
President Barbie.
Yeah, she's President Barbie. Alexander Shipp as Barbie. I don't remember which one she was. Emma Mackey as a Barbie. Nari Neff, Sharon Rooney, Ritu Arya, Anna Cruz, Kane. All fucking Barbies. There's a lot of Barbies in this movie, and there's a lot of Kens in this movie. And other Kens include our boy Simu Liu, the man who needs a sequel in Marvel. Please make it. It's the best Phase 4 movie, arguably. That's Shang-Chi. We got Kingsley Ben-Adir.
I haven't seen Shang-Chi.
It was good. We have Kingsley Ben-Adir as another Ken, and he most recently we watched him in Dog Shit
Gravik.
Secret Invasion. Gravik, yeah. We got John Cena as a Ken, Scott Evans, and we cannot forget, it would be criminal to forget Alan, who was played by Michael Cera.
Midge and Alan were the only 2 in Barbie world that weren't Barbie and Ken.
And then, of course, some other actors. Rhea Perlman is in the film. Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
A lot of actors in this movie. And basically, the premise of this movie is Barbie's just like living in fucking Barbie land or whatever the fuck. And she's starting to have some feelings. She's starting to have some human emotions that she's not used to. And this sets her on a course to the real world to find out why she's having these issues. And we come to find out that it's actually the feelings of a real life person in the film.
She's being imprinted upon almost.
Yeah. And this real life person happens to work for Mattel. And she's having some mother-daughter issues that you just have as you grow up. Like it's just a parental and child relationship.
Drifting apart a little bit.
Yeah. Her kid's like a fucking Gen Z social
like a
justice
9th grader.
warrior. And her mom's like, I just want to be with my daughter type of thing.
Yep.
So
TikTok.
yeah. Oh shit! I didn't even realize she was a Barbie. I didn't recognize her. Ritu Arya played a Barbie, and she was in that show. She's in that show Umbrella Academy. I did not recognize her in this. So that's weird. I don't know which Barbie she played, but I just noticed her on the cast list. All right, so let's get into it. There's a lot to talk about with this movie. Obviously, if you listen to the noise, it's, you know, you're either going to be taking the side of this movie's fucking woke and shits on men and frames men to be fucking idiots and this, that, and the other thing. Or you're on the other side of the equation, which is like heavily about like the fact that this movie's clearly about, you know, women's roles in society and, you know, sort of how they are treated in not just the professional world, but just the world in general. But I think that there's more to this movie than that. But we'll get into it a little bit later. But overall, what'd you guys think of this movie? Just generally speaking.
Oh man. I think it was good. I think it was overhyped though, for sure, for me at least. I did enjoy it, but it was pretty mid. I ain't gonna lie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all right. There were some parts that I really laughed at, so I thought there was some hilarious stuff in it. Story really was kind of plain to me. It seemed pretty simple. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all like
I mean,
normal
it's
stuff. I mean,
Mattel movie, so what do you? I don't know, but yeah,
yeah.
it had some good parts.
I thought it was very creative. Obviously had a lot of poignant themes and topics that it wanted to address. But I think because of those themes, the actual like plot sort of suffered a little bit. Because really, at the end of the day, you strip all the other shit away. It's just about Barbie becoming a real person.
Yeah.
Right? Which it's a Pinocchio story, kind of.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Which is cool. Which is cool, but there's like parts where like you have her like figuring out something's going on and her adventuring into the real world, and then the ending where she eventually becomes a real person. Spoiler. But the stuff in the middle, which is where like sort of the drama starts to come in, I thought it started to like just sort of like drag a little bit.
A little bit. I thought that was like one of the saving graces of the movie, though. Like without the depth, it would have been terrible.
I don't mean drag in a bad way, like it was slow.
Okay.
I mean drag in the sense of like it deviated from the actual plot of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Or the story rather. But it was just like there's a point.
So what things do you think deviated? I
Well,
guess?
like when the movie was like doing the messaging, it completely like forgot about the plot, kind of. Which, whatever. It's just that the movie was made to, it seemed to me, discuss certain issues and themes, which is fine. It's like a cultural narrative in a way. And I feel like the plot was kind of just like the afterthought to kind of just put the movie together. Like, well, if we're making a movie, we have to have a plot. And that was kind of it. So those were areas where I thought it weakened a little bit. And I didn't really like what I thought, what I thought was like the best part of the movie, the mother and daughter relationship. They were also kind of just like side characters to Barbie and Ken. Which
well, to what they were doing, but it felt like that's what the theme of the movie was about. To me, it was about a mother losing touch with her.
It was for
growing
sure.
Up daughter.
Well, that's one of the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But those two characters.
It was a plot device for her to draw the pictures of the sad Barbie.
Yeah, but we're talking about America Ferrera. She plays the mom Gloria, and she's the one who's actually giving Barbie these weird human emotions. And Ariana Greenblatt, I believe is her name, and she plays the daughter,
right?
Sasha.
Yep.
So Gloria and Sasha are mother-daughter, and all these feelings that Barbie's having is basically Gloria sort of using her daughter Sasha's old Barbie doll as a way to sort of like hold on to their connection when Sasha was a younger child. As you said,
right.
Sasha's older now. She's probably in like 9th or 10th grade. I don't know if they ever specifically address it, but she's in high school. And, you know, she's drifted apart from her mom. She has differing views. She doesn't play with Barbies anymore and like this, that, and the other thing. So while that is the central piece of the movie is like the mother-daughter relationship, I think the ultimate theme of the film is just sort of identity. And I think that comes full circle later on. And then you had like, we talked about Rhea Perlman was in the movie. She plays Ruth, who is the inventor of Barbie. And like, but in this film, she's like this like godlike sort of figure who she's like this sort of the spiritual advisor
she's
to
like the fucking
to Barbie.
It reminded me of like the Oracle in fucking Matrix, like
yeah,
that vibe was the same thing.
The Oracle, actually no, she was more like the creater, the architect in the Matrix.
Oh, the architect, yeah, probably so, yeah.
Ergo, though she never said ergo. And then Will Ferrell is just like Will Ferrell, but he's playing like the CEO of Mattel. And I don't know. A lot of this movie, I don't know. I might get in trouble for this with one of my friends who I watched it with, but like, well, yeah, I just don't like. It was a good movie, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny because it is a comedy. The cast was fucking great. Let's talk about the good stuff first. It's a comedy. It's a funny movie. I thought it was funny.
The visuals are great. Barbie Land was great.
I laughed numerous times. I thought the visuals were great. Like you said, it reminded me almost like a Wes Anderson movie, but if Wes Anderson was like
it did remind me of that.
A 15-year-old girl,
especially when they were traveling from the real world to Barbie world and vice versa.
Yeah, the cast was excellent. Everybody was great. Kate McKinnon was funny as she usually is. Margot Robbie fucking crushed it as Barbie.
Oh yeah, she was amazing.
Ryan Gosling, in my opinion, was the fucking scene stealer of the movie. And I know it might be like me saying that the man in the movie is the best of the movie is like the antithesis to what this movie was about. But I thought he was like the best in the movie. Every time he was on screen, he was fucking. He was just crushing it. I thought he was funny. Yeah. He was heartwarming. Like there was the points where you could like. You empathize for him, empathize and sympathize. Both words work in this case. And I thought he was fucking great. In fact, the person I watched it with, my friend, she was like, oh man, I could see Ryan Gosling should win like best supporting actor and this movie should win best picture of the year. Now, I don't quite agree that it should win best picture. I do think it was very good, but I don't know if it's best picture quality. But anyhow.
No.
Let's talk about the gripes because I did have a couple, right? And it's not what other people thought. I'm not going to sit here like fucking Ben Shapiro and be like, oh, this movie made men look like idiots. Men are idiots.
Wet ass P word.
Yeah, wet ass P word, baby. Ben Shapiro, that's his nickname. The guy who publicly fucking owns himself constantly. My wife said vaginal secretions are diseases. Yeah, okay, bro.
Shouldn't even be that way.
What does she say to her fucking yoga instructor? Anyhow, this movie's very much about like women's roles in society and how women, since they've been allowed to fucking have jobs and like just be a part of like the workforce and all this stuff, all the things that they've had to deal with because of men. And men are stereotyped in this movie. But so are the women, and that's where the movie comes around full circle. Like, yes, the movie is a huge narrative about like how women are treated in society. And like, guys, men, anybody watching this, if don't agree with this, like, you're not a woman, so you don't understand. So it's not fair for you to say that they're wrong. Go talk to any woman. If you're married, talk to your wife. You have a girlfriend, talk to her. They'll all tell you the same thing. Yeah, no, for sure. This is how men make us feel all the time.
Yeah.
So when Barbie goes into the real world and she sees what a shithole it is and how it's not run by women and things are off the rails and she gets catcalled at a fucking construction site and all this stuff, it's just like funny comedy, but that's how women are treated a lot of the time. It just is. And it's something that as men, we need to come to terms with and try to be better and not do it ourselves and call people out who we see do it. I think anyway. But I've seen some reviews where people are like this movie's preachy and this and anything. I didn't think that at all because by the time the movie comes around full circle, when I said the real central theme of the movie is identity and really about like self and ultimately what it is to be human. That's what the movie is about. Because
I agree.
Because everything that's showcased in this is about like the complexity of human emotions.
Yeah.
Really.
I think it was also about like main characters and like background characters and the toxicity of that because like at first, Barbie's the main character of Barbie Land and then the Kens take over. And then at the end, Barbie's like, they're like, we're going to get it back to how it was before. And she's like, well, I don't want it to be how it was before because obviously the Kens weren't happy. So there needs to be more, I guess, equality of like,
more balance.
Yeah.
More balance. Yeah.
Compromise.
And being just happy, like you said, identity. So like being content with who you are because the mom, I forgot her name, her speech.
Gloria.
Yeah, her speech at the end, she's like marketing this normal Barbie or I forgot what she called it exactly, but I think
Thoughts of impending death Barbie?
Yeah.
No, the normal one. The normal one at the end. I forgot the name of it, but yeah, it's like being content with who you are. You don't not everyone has to be a superstar or even want to have to accede or go to those type of levels,
And they showcase that through Ken as well, because Ken's whole like issue in this movie is that he is the background character to Barbie, right?
Mhm.
And in the movie he loves Barbie, and he's constantly trying to fight for her affection or get her to like him. And by the end of the film, Barbie's like, dude, I'm sorry that I took you for granted, but I also don't feel that way about you.
Right.
And there's an actual real touching moment where he's like, I was made like to love you. It's the reason why I was made, and it's like it's my only purpose. And I exist only to, what does he say, to bathe in your light or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like
Your
a really
gaze or something.
Yeah, and it's like a really kind of like emotional moment. And she's like, well, how about you just go be your own person and exist for yourself and not for me? So that's why, like, again, I think this is a very multi-layered and very smart movie, because it was able to touch on a lot of different topics, very important cultural topics about identity and like how women are treated.
Yourself and living the life you want to live, not the one that was created for you.
Right. And it was also about, it was just about a lot of different things, but centrally it's about what it, like the complexity of being a human being. I also found it interesting where Will Ferrell's like, their tactic to like stop the Barbie from evolving into a human was to put her back in a box.
Yeah.
So that also coincides with like identity. When you put, like, people tend to put themselves into boxes, or culture, like our society puts people into boxes. And, most recently that has surfaced in the form of like, trans rights issues, or the lack thereof, where it's like, gender roles are sort of putting somebody in a box. Well, you're a man, you have a beard, so you have to do this, this, and this, and be like this, this, and this. Well,
right.
Why? Like, that's the sort of thing. And that's the interesting thing about human beings, right? Is like, we're obviously part of the animal kingdom, and we are mammals and we're animals, but we are the only animals that, as far as we know, that have these like complex emotions and thoughts and feelings, and live with the knowledge of our impending death. And like, so it's like, we're a very complicated species. So to just like basically define a human by like one or two things is pretty bizarre and stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are you thinking over there, Dusty?
I was just thinking about the stuff you're saying about animals. I'm pretty sure plenty of animals have weird emotions. We're humans. We have opposable thumbs and the ability to use tools. That's what really separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom, because we can
language.
We can build a world. We can build a world around us that suits our conveniences and needs.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. This movie felt like, I mean, Greta Gerwig said, I want to borrow a lot from Elf. I want this to feel a little bit like that, and it did.
Yep, felt a lot like Elf.
In the way it was done, which is, I mean, it was taken to the extremes on both sides. But I mean, I don't know. There was some interesting stuff in there, like when Barbie was trying to go, and Weird Barbie gave her, here, put these on and you'll forget everything, or take the Birkenstocks and go find out why you
the red
think
and blue
about that.
pill.
She's like, no, I don't want to remember. I want to go back and forget everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's some really funny moments, like the first time she took a drink of water and there was something in the thing that she made me rolling.
I thought there were.
The comedy in this was great. The story and the messaging, I mean, I just felt like it was in a backseat to me. Like, I didn't care. I wasn't really it wasn't keeping me consumed and wanting to be like, okay, where are they going to take the story? I'm like, okay, well, they're showing the men's world and the woman's world, and they're kind of like showing the fight between how those things are very different, matriarch, patriarch, and all that stuff, which is fine. But
well, that's really where I felt an imbalance that I was trying to explain earlier. Is like, the movie goes through like kind of shifts where like it wants to be about Barbie and Ken and the dynamic of men and women. And to be fair to the movie, like, yes, it does frame the Kens as like dumbass fucking dudes for a lot of the movie, the patriarchy or whatever.
Right.
But it comes around at the end and like actually gives men like credit, like, hey ladies, sometimes you do fucking, you don't appreciate like some guys maybe in your life that like do all this stuff for you or whatever, and like you take it for granted. And that goes both ways. That is not exclusive to men or women, but they do give the men, the Kens, a little bit of credit by the end, and it's like, you know, hey, maybe just think. There's like a lot of stuff like, hey, maybe just think about what the other person's feeling for once instead of thinking about yourself. But the imbalance that I keep talking about is like part of the movie is like very much about the Ken Barbie dynamic, men and women dynamic. And then all of a sudden the movie stops and it's about this mother and daughter. And then all of a sudden the movie goes back to like Ken and Barbie, and the mother-daughter gets like no love after that point, really. They just like are there to help Barbie. Right. And like their relationship was the one that I really gave a shit about, because they're like all the emotional beats of this movie, and I thought there were some really good ones. All the flashbacks, that like really emotional moment where Barbie's like basically seeing the memories of what we come to find out is Gloria's memories. Mm-hmm. Like that stuff like kind of made me cry at times. The ending of the movie made me cry, and like, but I don't. Good ending. Yeah, I just don't think that those two characters, Gloria and Sasha, I don't think they really got enough love.
They didn't get development either. Like there was no arc. It was just they were there and they were the plot device to move
exactly.
I didn't really care about them. Like I know the intention was for me to care about the mother and the daughter, but because they didn't get enough, I
that's what I'm
really
saying.
Care about them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The movie didn't make you care about them. Like they set you up to be like, hey, these are two characters you should attach yourself to, but then it just like pulls it away. So yeah, the movie felt a little bit off balanced as to like, you know, where that was going. Alan, as funny as he is, just because it was Michael Cera being Michael Cera, I don't really understand what his purpose in the movie was as well.
Just an Easter egg.
Just I think it was just showcasing just someone even
background
more
character.
Different. Just someone just more different, I guess.
Alan and Midge were husband and wife Barbies that were discontinued. Midge was Barbie.
Alan was Ken's best friend when it was invented, the toy.
Right, but he only lasted, I think, like 2 years before.
Yeah. So I think he was there just to be like another background.
Yeah, he was an Easter egg, basically. Like you can't all be Ken and Barbies. Who else can we use? We got Midge
for sure.
and Alan.
So. Yeah, I don't know. I think I agree with you guys that it felt a little bit overhyped having watched it.
Yeah. Still enjoyable though, but just like you know,
I enjoyed it again.
Insane.
I thought it was funny and I really liked the messaging of it, but I don't know, there was just like it just kind of felt off to me where it's like, you know, the messaging of the movie landed. That it did. It's just like the other elements that like make a movie kind of were a little bit weak to me. Like the whole
I don't think Will Ferrell was needed at all in this. Like it just felt extra.
A little bit. I mean,
he likes playing those roles though. He likes doing cameos and shit, which wasn't really a cameo. You knew he was going to be in it, but
it's just like it felt like it added unnecessary time to the movie.
If
like
Greta
them showing him constantly like going through the Barbie world and all. I mean, it adds up. It does add up time for no reason to the movie.
Well, it was
about a half hour too long.
I think he was the one like representing the man who like thinks he's like an ally but really isn't.
Oh, the toxic ally.
Toxic, what's that called? Toxic positivity or something like that. No, because he was like, oh no, we make Barbies to inspire young women and like bring them up, but we got to put her in a box. She's got to be the way it's like. So he was like kind of that.
They had one woman CEO in the 90s.
Yeah.
So and another one.
Well, the other thing too is like I wish they kind of like explored the Ruth part of the movie a little bit more, because she's actually a very interesting person. I looked into it a little bit. She basically invented Barbie. I think Barbie's debut was in like 1959 or something at like a toy expo. But she went on to be the founder and co-owner of Mattel. But in 1978, she, along with other Mattel executives, were indicted by a federal grand jury for conspiracy, mail fraud, giving the Securities and Exchange Commission false financial statements for the company. And she pleaded no contest and was fined $57,000 and sentenced to 2,500 hours of community service.
2,000?
Yeah. And then in the 1980s, she had breast cancer, like is touched on in the movie briefly, and she had a mastectomy. And she went on to create these lifelike prosthetics designed for and by women who suffered from breast cancer. It was called Nearly Me, and it was supposed to be like a real life prosthetic for women who had mastectomies.
Oh,
so she's a pretty interesting woman because she did that, which is like pretty cool, to be honest. And she invented like literally the most popular toy to ever exist. Like Barbie's the Superman of fucking toys, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
And I really liked her messaging at the end where she's like, I invented and that's, again, it brings back the mother-daughter thing where it's like, well, no, Barbie was named after my daughter, Barbara. And like, they tried to like kind of create this like connection with the mother-daughter thing, but they didn't build it up enough between the other two characters for it to really mean anything by the end when that happens. It's just kind of like an,
hit it all.
That's nice type of thing.
Cool.
Too much fanfare service. Like, we gotta show them traveling to and from. Everybody on the bikes. The bikes getting longer. The skates. Everything.
I watched this with my girl, and she used to play with Barbies and stuff. So she said a lot of the stuff was accurate to.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
A lot of the toys and Easter eggs, like that stuff, like the one that they joke about the Barbie that like their boobs can grow, like that was a real thing.
That was hilarious, yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of cool Easter eggs if you're into like Barbie and just toy history. I'm sure a lot of it I didn't really catch on to. But again, that stuff aside, they bring Ruth in at the end to do this like mother-daughter connection, like aha moment. But like the more interesting part about it was what she was talking about was like, I created Barbie to be anything. Like Barbie can be anything. Barbie is a blank slate for which little girls can put their hopes and dreams onto. That's why there is a President Barbie. That's why there is a Dr. Barbie. That's the point of the movie is like, you could be whatever you want to be and you don't have to adhere to the roles that society places on you. Like be whoever or whatever you want to be. So again, the movie was funny. It works as a comedy. I legitimately laughed a number of times. The movie works in delivering the messaging, the many multi-layered messages that it wanted to deliver. Because again, I have to reiterate, it touched on many different topics that I think are both important and current, and it did them in a smart and creative way. But I just think the actual plot of the movie got lost under those messages. Like I don't think the movie was preachy. I don't think the movie was too fucking woke or any of that stuff. I just think as a movie, the plot was kind of boring to me and like didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say before we give our ratings?
Nah, shouts out to Mattel though. They made Hot Wheels as well.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. We're gonna get a lot of toy movies coming up, I think. Well, once the strikes are over, but
yeah.
I think they're doing a Mattel universe, actually.
Oh, cool. I legitimately squeezed out a tear too a couple times during this movie. Like, person I was watching it with, I think was like bawling a few times. But like this movie is this is one of those movies that's gonna have a different impact depending on who's watching it, and obviously it's gonna mean a lot more to women than it is gonna be to men. But
for sure,
I think like I really liked that little monologue that Gloria gives towards the end, where she's like talking about how like the contradictory expectations that are placed on women.
Yep.
Like be pretty, but don't be too pretty. Do this, but don't do that too.
Right.
I thought that was great because that, and I'm curious, what did your fiance think about the movie? Like the messaging of it, was she like, oh, yep, that's accurate?
Yeah, she definitely, for sure.
And every time I argue with like my parents, for instance, because they're fucking boomers and they just don't understand like what's going on nowadays. I try to say it's just a matter, like just all you have to do is try for a second to understand the perspective of somebody else and how they may have gone through things that you haven't, So I think that movie did that very effectively for both sides, not just the women, but also the men. It gave, that's why I said it gave the Ken sort of like a moment of like, hey, just try to understand their perspective for a second. They're probably not always right. More often than not, they're probably not right and behaving inappropriately because that's just how men brain is. But like, you know, just take a moment to understand.
Yeah. I think they did a good job of that when they first got to the world. She's trying to explain how she feels creepy. She's like, it's like everybody's watching me and it's weird and kind of afraid.
I thought that was
like,
funny.
I feel great.
Yeah,
and it's like, I'm just oblivious to it all.
What were you gonna say, Marvin?
I was just gonna say, I think this movie was for everyone. You know, like the Barbies, the Kens, the
Allens,
the weirdos, the Allens.
Yeah,
I don't think it really was for kids though, which is funny. So
no, I mean, I don't think it was. It was definitely geared towards a more adult community, even though it was PG-13. It was leaned heavily on the adult humor. Yeah, especially the innuendo in the beginning.
Had a beach off.
Yeah.
I had the beach off,
I beach myself off every day.
It was so funny. Ken trying to go get a job. He was like, yeah, I'm a man. Isn't that enough or something? Yeah. And he tries to go get a job like as a lifeguard, but he was like,
had no training.
Not trying to get a life. He was just trying to beach.
Yeah, he was so trying to sometimes you just got to beach, Marvin, you know? So, ultimately I enjoyed it again. It was funny. I thought the messaging hit. I wish the story was a little bit. I wish the story and the plot was a little bit better, but that's just me. I probably wouldn't watch this again if I'm being honest. We use that as a measuring stick from time to time. I'm glad I watched it.
Maybe that should just be the thing.
Would we watch it again?
Would you watch it again? Yes or no? Simplifies it a little bit.
It does, yeah.
I mean, but you could also, did you enjoy watching it the first time? I wouldn't watch it again, but I
enjoyed it. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm glad I watched it. I'm like,
that's fair.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very creative movie. So shout out to Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach for writing it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Margot.
Watch it again. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say shout out to Margot because when she helped pitch it, she was like, "This movie's gonna make billions of dollars." Like, I promise. So like they knew what they were doing.
She didn't lie. Yeah.
Now this is one of those movies that's gonna have those skewed ratings because there's a lot of fucking anti-woke comments there. But it's got a 7.2 on IMDb. I would probably give it like a 6.5. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's where I'd go.
6.5, 7. It's up there.
Yeah, it's in that range, I think.
I mean, I'm curious. That's IMDb?
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes is actually both audience and critic scores, both in the 80 percentile.
Yeah,
so
one of them critics.
That's...
Yeah.
I think IMDb is like, it's got to be like 80% male.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Probably.
A little skewed.
But
it's 300,000 ratings, so...
Yeah.
I wonder how many of those are bots.
But yeah, just to reiterate, like, I'm reading a review here. It says this movie wasn't this. This is a good review, actually, 10 out of 10, from a man who claims to be conservative. But he says this movie wasn't designed to give a balanced perspective of men versus women. It's a no-holds-barred, unapologetic, crazy ride of a rant about the real issues that women have faced since they were allowed to have real jobs and do the same things as men. I disagree with that. I think a good portion of the movie is like that, but I do think it gives a balanced perspective by the end when you realize that the movie is not about being a man or a woman. It's about just being a human being and respecting other human beings.
Perspective. I wouldn't say it was a balanced perspective. I think they did a good job of trying to hit both sides, but I definitely think they hit the women's struggle more. And now, obviously, because it's a Barbie movie, but
but also women have struggled. Like, we live in a history of like dominated by white men, so it's like, what do you expect? Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
But yeah, overall, good movie. Go check it out if you haven't watched it. If you have watched it, we'd be curious to let you know what you think about it. Leave a comment down below the video to let us know, or reach out to us someplace else. Again, you can check out harshlanguage.tv to find all our links to stuff like that. We will be back next week with the Make Marvin Watch episode for the month of September. And he's going to be watching The Jerk.
Classic.
Oh, there it is.
Starring Steve Martin. Classic.
Hates those cans.
A classic comedy with a comedy legend, Steve Martin. So be sure to check back with us next week to see what Marvin thought about watching that for the first time. And Yeah. Otherwise, we'll catch you then.
See ya.
Basta.